for the first little while. Please do have your camera on, don't be shy, and there will be lots of time for chat and questions and input towards the end. So first of all, to kick things off, I'm going to hand you over to Lawrence Lewis, who's from Chicago and is representing Microsoft, and also Robert Sloan, who will be bringing you through a little bit more of the Microsoft Data Center Community Development Team's work right across the US. So Lawrence, do you want to kick things off?
Sure. Thanks, Neve. Again, my name is Lawrence Lewis. I was born and raised in Chicago. I moved a little over 3 years ago out to the Seattle, Washington area for taking this job with Microsoft. My primary role at Microsoft is actually director of the site selection and acquisition of our data centers. And Chicago is one of the communities that I direct and manage. And I was invited by the Data Center Community Development Team to assist with their efforts in Chicago, which led me ultimately to becoming the Chicago Community Lead as a volunteer for the Data Center Community Development Team. And so I've been working closely with Robert Sloan, who is full-time dedicated to the Data Center Community Development Team as a principal. And Robert is frankly doing the lion's share of the work, but together we've been able to work with some great folks, including ChangeX, and we're excited about talking about the new launch for this year. And with that, I will turn it now over to Robert Sloan.
Great. Thank you, Lawrence. I appreciate that, and just also want to emphasize that, Lawrence mentioned he's a volunteer for our team, which is the environment and the types of organizations that you all work with. I think everyone here has a full appreciation for volunteerism and anybody willing and able to spend time contributing to things like this outside of his normal or day-to-day responsibilities. So just wanted to take a moment and thank Lawrence and commend him, because without his kind of local expertise and relationships and insight into the Chicagoland area, our ability to have conversations like this and to start making impact in the community would have been much, much slower to develop. So just want to thank Lawrence for all his help so far. So I do work in our Microsoft's Data Center Community Development Team along with Rahul Joshi, who's also on the call with us. And Rahul, feel free to chime in at any time, because you always have great color commentary to add to these kind of overviews. So
I do
please,
like to talk. Yeah.
Yes, feel free, please. Team effort as always. So Data Center Community Development is an organization within Microsoft's operations organization. So our senior leadership, ultimately organization that Lawrence is a part of, is responsible ultimately for constructing, building, operating our data centers, our cloud data center infrastructure globally. So our team is specifically a part of that operations organization because we see value in pursuing and making community development efforts in the communities near and around where we're operating data centers, and doing that in the context or with some level of subject matter expertise of what it means to invest in and operate those data centers and understand the impacts on the communities, and as well as our own local operations teams that work and live in the communities where we operate data centers. I saw Jim Bettridge joined the call, and Jim is an example of one of those folks that is on our Chicago V team, works in our data center in North Lake, and him and his peers' contribution to these local efforts is essential as well. So if you want to advance slides, I can go into a little bit of an overview of our program level. So we're kind of governed by, or in the spirit of, kind of the framework and the guidance that Satya provides us for us at a corporate level, and then we apply that within the context of our operations and our data center impact or community impact where our data centers reside. So as you can see, those pillars are focused around diversity, inclusion, community equity and employee engagement. So part of our focus and part of our emphasis is also giving an opportunity for our local employees to be involved, participate, identify opportunities for us to make investments and volunteer time and many other aspects. So the local involvement and the opportunity to have our local voices heard is very important to our team as well. It is within 5 initiatives or focus areas. One of those is Community Empowerment Fund, which is really what this Chicago Community Challenge falls under, that umbrella of the Community Empowerment Fund. That's kind of a somewhat ambiguous way of referring to grants. We often steer away from the reference to grants within our organization because we are distinctly not a part of Microsoft Philanthropies, which is a different organization, and also because our investments are often focused around optimization and efficient operating infrastructure and making investments, long-term investments in infrastructures and things around job training, as you can see, workforce development, community broadband, environmental sustainability, digital skills and transformation, as opposed to more of traditional grants where it may have just be more of donation focused type of giving. I very bluntly or simplistically refer to it as, we put a lot of effort into working to buy fishing poles and not fish. So that will be part of, in the spirit of this ChangeX engagement and what we're going to talk about more in detail here today. We have another slide? Okay, yeah. So here's our organization in the history of Microsoft is fairly new. I think that, Rahul, are we in our 3rd full year now? You've been here longer than I have, so
I was
3 years.
Yep, 3 years. I was here 3 years ago. The first guy that actually got in touch with me in terms of what we could be doing with our programs after hearing something similar was Lawrence. And then Lawrence met you as you quickly joined after. And then as soon as Lawrence met you, it was just like, he doesn't need to talk to me anymore. He needs to talk to a guy that knows what he's talking about. So I think that's the relationship has really been great. And at Chicago, the first time I came out to Chicago was actually with Lawrence. And then he realized what I could do, which was not that much. And then, but eventually meeting with you, it has just been gone. It's been going great since then. So you're right, about 3 years. And you're talking to 3 of the originals on the team on the call today. So continue on, bro.
Yeah, thank you. So there's just kind of an overview. I won't go through it verbatim. Folks can read through it, but we are ramping up, and I think Chicago is a good example of our of our ramp up. Excuse me. We had a fortunate opportunity within the last 2 years of really increasing our budget allocation and our ability to make investments in Chicago. So over the course of the last 2 years, we're seeing a ramp up, which of course is a big reason why we're here having this conversation today, as well as a couple of other projects that Lawrence and I have been able to work together on that are ongoing. Of course, that's where I've met Gian and some other folks on the call that for some of those other projects that they're not yet public, so I haven't disclosed them. But we've been working in the area for a number of years and gained a lot of good momentum. So we're looking forward to just continuing to build on that, and conversations like this are a great opportunity for us to continue to build that network of community advocates and find opportunities to maximize those investments in this $100,000 pool of monies that we're going to work through with the ChangeX program is I think a great opportunity. So I appreciate everybody joining today and participating and seeing what we can do to move this forward.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Robert and Lawrence, and also Rahul. I know we have Holly Beale with us as well today. And yeah, we've been working with this team now for about 18 months, and it's really been great. I think we're now in 8 different communities across the US. So thank you all for working with us. So yeah, we would love to introduce ChangeX a little bit more now to tell you a bit more about what it's about. So Paul O'Hara, who's the CEO, is going to tell us a little bit about ChangeX and also give an overview of the impact in Chicago from last year's Chicago Sustainability Challenge, and also give a quick overview of this year's fund.
Very good. Thanks a million, Neve. Hello, everyone in Chicago and wherever else in the world you are. I'm calling in from Dublin. It's like almost nighttime here, getting dark. When we launched here last year, I think I reflected that Chicago is kind of close to my family's heart. My grandfather went out there as an economic migrant many moons ago from a small island off the coast of Ireland. Many people think Ireland is a small island, but there was actually smaller islands off the coast of Ireland. And he went to Chicago, and then some years later, his daughter went out there as a 19-year-old from Ireland, trained as a nurse, and still lives in Chicago. She's a good age now and is cocooning somewhere on the outskirts, trying to stay away from COVID. She'd be a prime host for it, so she's keeping the head down. And now she has all family out there. So I've been in Chicago a bunch of times for weddings and whatnot. So delighted to be on and reconnecting with some of the people that we met along the way. So yeah, just a very quick history of ChangeX. We started it 5 years ago in Ireland, in a very rural part of the west of Ireland, from which many people migrated to America and Chicago over the years. And the idea was, there's all these great ideas that are in communities all over the world, and what if you could package them up and make them accessible to communities elsewhere to adopt and adapt if they thought they were relevant? So that's kind of the idea behind ChangeX. So we take ideas that are working, package them up. We get companies, partner with companies like Microsoft, which has been an amazing partnership for us, who put the fuel in the tank for local community leaders to take those ideas and get them up and running. And it'll be great to hear from a couple of those. I know Pearl Ramsey doesn't know it, but she's kind of like a celebrity in the ChangeX universe, and she's going to be speaking. I haven't met her, so looking forward to hearing about her project there. And yeah, and then we measure the impact of that. So maybe just jumping on there, Katie, I could just share a little bit of the impact from the, yeah, so a little over a year ago, we launched the Chicago Sustainability Challenge. I think it was about 18 months ago. So we have activated 34 community projects across impacting a little over 10,000 people, and that was a $70,000 fund. So the good news is we got 100,000 this time around, so we can build on that impact that we've kind of started. So this is the beauty of doing it year on year, is you get the kind of layer on layer momentum. So just, you know, there's been lots of different impacts there around, like 45,000 pounds of food diverted from waste, a couple of £1,000 of waste removed from Chicago rivers, lots of people growing their own food, planting trees, 6 new pollinator habitats, with 395 people engaged in pollinator projects across the city. So just by way of some of the examples, and we're going to hear from a couple of those examples, I know, in a little bit. So just jumping on there, Katie, I'll just quickly run through the, so this year's challenge is launching today. 100,000 is the total fund, and the grant ranges from $500 up to $5,000, and that's all dependent on the complexity of the project and what kind of resources are needed to get them started. The region is Chicagoland, and the goal is to get up to 50 new projects from a portfolio of 13 ideas. So Niamh and Katie and Nicole will go through some of the ideas, and we've got some of the great social innovators behind those ideas with us as well. And the themes are sustainability, digital skills, and prosperous communities. So now I guess it's officially launched. Please do help us spread the word. And Niamh and the team are going to go through a lot more detail, but I wish you all very well. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Paul. And yeah, so the impact that Paul described there would not have been in any way possible without some amazing community leaders that we saw come through the challenge in Chicago. And we have 2 of them with us today, Pearl Ramsey, who Paul mentioned, and also Renata Pittman, who's in Evanston. So Renata is on a mission, I think, to make Chicago a more pollinator-friendly region, starting in Evanston. And then Pearl has been running the Community Joy Garden in the Chatham area of Chicago. So do you both have your cameras on, if you want to unmute yourselves?
Can you see myself? I think my camera is on. Can you see me?
Okay, I'm
There you are, Renata.
Oh, we can see you now. Yeah.
All right, 1 second.
And it
I'm
sounds like
situating
Pearl is
mine.
coming.
Yes, I'm here. I'm just
Hi,
situating my
Pearl.
camera. Okay.
Great. Yes, we might start with you, Renata. Will you tell us a little bit about the work that you've been doing in Evanston?
Yeah, so I was thinking that, I have this lawn front here, a big lawn for my front yard, and I transformed my front yard into a meadow. And I was thinking, how can we do this and make this exponential for the 17,000 landowners in Evanston? So first I did a context to try to involve the maximum number of communities through iNaturalist observing pollinators on these gardens, and we got like 1,000 people involved, like 3,000 people involved in this.
Oh, we just lost you there, Renata. I think you just muted yourself by mistake, maybe, if you want to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
So I found everyone who was working with the pollinator gardens in the region, and I contact all the institutions to see what they are doing and how could I collaborate with them and how we could join projects together. And I contacted the city of Evanston as well to see if I can contact every single landowner of Evanston, and if instead of change 1 or 2, we could really like make a big landscape changing like all the laws, and how can we change the politics to make this happen? Because we estimate more or less the cost to maintain a law, and it's like $600 that people spend a year to maintain a law that doesn't provide any ecosystem service. So what? You spend $600 a year to maintain a pollinator habitat. So how we can sensibilize people about it? So I was thinking to use a critical endangered species who live in here. And we have one, the rusty-patched bumblebee is a critical endangered species who live in here. So when we reach the landowners telling this story, hey, we have a species that is about to get out of this planet, just living here, and we can do something to save it. So I think this kind of sensibilization can lead more people to change, the entire landscape and the habitat.
And you've already signed up 100 different people, I think, to plant pollinator gardens and kind of change their behavior around pollinators.
Yeah, I have like a list of like 100 people committed, but I want to go to 17,000, not just hundreds. It's just too small for the change we need right now. We need now a big change, not just 1 or 2 or 300. We need like a exponential change, and that's what I'm looking for.
Totally brilliant. Well, thanks so much, Renata. And we'll come back to you in a second. But Pearl, are you with us now? I think you might be just on mute.
Yeah, I'm happy doing that.
So yeah, Pearl, tell us, I know you had already started your community joy garden, but tell us a little bit about what you've been able to do. It sounds like it has become much more than just a garden, but a real hub for different community things over the past year or so.
Absolutely. And first, thank you all so much. Being a part of this community has been so encouraging. And the project that you all created, it just really shows the power of us and what happens when people with vision, sometimes you don't even know how you're going to impact the rest of the world. But this objective and work in a community, anybody that's ever been a part of any projects where it's a labor of love, you understand how important time is. And ChangeX gave me time, and it allowed for me to focus my energy in a way without all of the stress of wondering how I was going to culminate all my energies to get a job done. Our garden was initially launched and created by nobody took credit. It was hard to find out who put it there. They put it in the community. They didn't build any relationships. So it was between the state's attorney's office, the alderwoman's office. But every time that I was going to try to create accountability and in order to understand what I could do, or if there was anything available, they were like, well, we think it's this office. So everybody knows the runaround, which goes back to ChangeX in terms of resources. the process was so clear that I thought it was surreal. I was like, this is not happening. Nobody gives people money. And so that was really hard for me to really digest. So the garden, people were putting furniture in there. Nobody was utilizing it. I had come out of the country. I was traveling a lot, performing and doing some residencies. And when I came and I heard about it, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. There's a garden here, like a garden in the middle of the community. So I just started with a rake and cleaning it. And then people would just pass by and people thought it was, great and it's cool. But of course, in the communities, because Chicago is extremely segregated, the division is there. Economically, it's very segregated as well. And so it's just hard to tap into resources without constantly going through a lot of red tape and jumping through hoops and meeting people and networking and clicking and having to get certificated. It's just so much work. So a neighbor told me about ChangeX. I saw it. I just thought just to give it a shot because I'm in it. So I'm like, let me try. And what they provided was this opportunity that gave me strength. Sometimes it's amazing how one kind deed can change a life. Like just hearing someone say hello when you're down and just having someone just be available to you. And the fact that it was just this international community, I still didn't think it was real, but when they did, and they just made it simple to talk to the administrators, like it wasn't this hierarchy that felt unobtainable to reach people. Like I could reach a human being that was willing to talk to me and provide information on what I needed to get done. Like they made the process simple. You need pictures here. You need to meet up. We need to post that there. I was posting anyway because it was my way of communicating to the community at large about what was happening just to stir some interest. And then volunteerism came very naturally. And so now the garden is operating and I go down there and there are neighbors. That was the biggest thing to me. Oftentimes when we get grants and money comes to the community, it's usually people from outside of the community end up coming in. They don't engage with the community itself. So I was going door to door and I was talking with people as they passed by. I didn't want it to be a space where people felt pressure. I didn't want the space to come from a place of deficit. I didn't want the narrative to be about pain and all the worst things that people hear through the propaganda. I needed for it to come from a place of love so that joy would be the impulse that people would come because it felt good. And ChangeX provided me first strength, inspiration, and hope. And that is what I was able to give to the community. And now people come because they want to be there. When people are always getting cucumbers and squash and onions and leek and then now it was so much easier to partner with other gardens. So I go to other gardens just to see what they're doing and just to have those conversations. So I cannot tell you all how many lives. Now there's volunteerism coming from a place of love, from joy and investment, and people just wanting to be a part of it because it feels good to them. And that is the basis of all of our humanity, beyond all of our isms, that we just want to feel heard, we want to be seen, and we want to do it from just a basic impulse because it feels good. The garden has a gazebo now. ChangeX provided us with more than money. They provided us a community of support where now the work felt like it was reaching, and I felt some sense of residual sort of accomplishment. And I can't tell you how. I just want to say thank you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you,
Well,
thank you so much.
Thank you, Pearl. Thanks so much. It was really great to hear your story. And yeah, Pearl has been, like Paul said, a bit of an inspiration because she's always shared exactly what's been happening in her gardens. We've seen all these beautiful images. So I feel like I've been there even though I never have. So thank you both so much. I could ask you 100 more questions and hear lots more about both your projects, but unfortunately we don't have a whole lot of time today. So we're going to have to move on. But yeah, thank you, Renata and Pearl, for sharing. So yeah, now we're just going to dive in a little bit deeper into this year's challenge and what exactly is involved. So Katie Smith from the ChangeX team is just going to introduce very quickly how the challenge works, who can apply, and what people get as they apply.
Thanks a million, Niamh. I'll try to keep this as short as possible. So this is the Chicago Community Challenge landing page, which is now live. So when you come to the page, you can choose one of 15 ideas to start in your community. Once you do that, you will be put into a 30-day, you go through a 30-day challenge process. And Can you hear me okay? I'm just getting bad quality call. Can you hear me, Niamh? Yeah, okay, great. So you'll go through a 30-day challenge. Pearl and Renata touched on it there. You just have to do a couple of simple steps. You speak to one of us on the ChangeX team. You form your own team in your community. You form an action plan at a team meeting that you have, and you post that all onto your ChangeX page. And at that point, we'll do a quick due diligence process and then hopefully be able to release 70% of the funding that's been allocated to you to start your project. So the projects, as Paul mentioned, have a cost point between $500 and $5,000. So you'll get 70% of that funding at that point. You'll put your project into action, your action plan into action. And then in about 6 months' time, we'll come back to you and we'll be really excited to hear about what impact you've been having. So you'll share an impact survey and some photos with us, and then we'll be able to release the remaining 30% of your funding. So who can apply? Both Microsoft and ChangeX want this fund to be as accessible to everyone in the community as possible. So once you're in Chicagoland and you're passionate about making a change in your community, then this is for you. So if you're an individual, a community or neighborhood group, a school, a 501c3 organization, whatever your entity or your individual structure is, that's totally fine. If you are an individual, you do have to form a team, but you can start off as an individual, no problem. And then what you get, so support-wise, you get the funding. You also get support from us and the ChangeX team and support from the social innovators behind the ideas that we'll hear about in a moment. You also get a starter kit in the mail, so that'll include a general kit on how to start a project in a community and also a more specific one around the idea that you've chosen to start. And you'll also get tech tools, so you get your own web page on the ChangeX site where you can share your updates and organize meetings and keep in touch with your team. So I'll hand back now to Niamh.
Brilliant, thanks so much, Katie. And as I think we've mentioned, this year there's 13 different ideas in the challenge. So we've kind of expanded the reach beyond sustainability to also include digital skills and also community prosperity. So we've also kind of adapted the ideas so that they can be activated during the restrictions that are going on at the minute. So a lot of things can be done remotely. So we're lucky enough to have some of the organizations behind these ideas with us today. So we might start with Girls Who Code, and we have Cabret Yebitit, who's in New York, and we'll share a little bit about Girls Who Code with us.
Thanks, Niamh. I apologize, my connection cannot handle doing the video this morning, so I apologize.
No problem.
But thank you for having me and thank you all for being here. As Niamh said, I'm a manager of community partnerships and outreach at Girls Who Code. I work with school districts, library networks, as well as nonprofit organizations to bring our free coding curriculum to their students. The way Girls Who Code clubs work is that anyone and everyone can get involved. You don't have to have any experience with coding or CS to start a club. You really just have to be willing to commit the time and have students who are interested in learning. Girls Who Code provides all the resources you need, including the free curriculum, as well as training and support. We're really lucky to have worked with ChangeX in a number of other cities and are excited to see how we can grow our presence in Chicago.
Brilliant, thanks so much.
Thank you.
And Krista Nightingale from Better Block Foundation, who's joining us from Dallas today.
Hi there. Hello, everyone. Yes, I know we were all talking about weather, so it's bright and shiny here in Dallas, Texas. Although slightly chilly, I think it's like 60, so nowhere to complain compared to a lot of y'all. Well, thank you so much for having us. So I am with the Better Block, which is an urban design nonprofit based out of Dallas, but we do work all over the world. And this particular project is focused on slow streets. So I know Chicago has a pretty great program in the works that's kind of been up and running for a few months. The concept is really simple. It's to shut down your street to through traffic, keeping it open to local traffic. And throughout this program, we'll work with you to get that done in your neighborhood. And then the funding will supply all of the elements that you need to actually do that. So not only the barricades, but also some stencils that you can put on the ground and some art pieces that you can do with your neighborhoods. So it's a way to kind of come outside, to gather together, but also maintain that safe social distance, which is so important right now. So thank you so much for having us. I'm happy to answer any and all questions, and I hope you have a great day.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Krista. And now I might go to Sarah Lubick, who's actually there in Chicago and is going to tell us about First Lego League and the 3 different programs that we have on ChangeX this year that local teams can start.
Great. Hi, everyone. So I got started with First Lego League as a coach myself, something like 8 years ago, when our 2 boys invited 6 of their friends, and every single one said, yes, they want to be on a First Lego League team. What is that? So essentially, the students learn to have fun while learning STEM skills, soft skills that are needed for the 21st century, public speaking, while they do a number of diverse steps and participate in a whole judging panel of requirements that they complete during a season. So essentially, they build a robot, they program it, they build mission models in a table that goes with a theme for the year, and then they program the robot to interact with those mission models and complete missions for points. So there's a game, but there's also core values that are taught throughout the season and reinforced. And so they are being judged in their final event on demonstrating how well they demonstrate their core values as a team. So they also complete an innovation project, which is finding a real world solution to a problem that exists in your community based around the theme. So this year is replay. It's talking about, the kids are learning about how inactivity isn't really good for humans, and how can we get humans to be more engaged in playful ways to keep our bodies healthy and strong. So, and then the third part, yeah, isn't that great? Like, they didn't really know that all this was happening, right? But it's a perfect topic. And then they also are judged on their robot design. So they're being encouraged to use an iterative design process where they're testing their design and making improvements and showing their process to their judges as well. In Illinois, we typically have over 600 teams in a season. This year, we're down significantly because of COVID, but we're really excited about the opportunity that the ChangeX grant brings to all of our First Lego League teams. Often when you're a new coach, the biggest hurdle to starting a team is funding. You feel like, you have to pay for it all out of your own pocket, and then hopefully, parents of kids on your team may be able to help reimburse some of your costs. The kids often engage in fundraising, going out in the community and asking businesses to donate to their team, somewhat the way a sports team might. But often it's fraught with its own challenges and its own stress. So we're really excited about the enrichment and opportunity that this will provide to particularly our Chicagoland teams in Illinois, who really, for them, the hurdle is the funding. We're also excited about
thanks so much, Sarah. Yeah, we've had lots of teams apply to start right across the US, so we're very excited to have you guys on board. I just want to make sure we have time, because we have one more organization that is actually very much related to the project that you mentioned, which is all about playful learning and keeping kids active. So Shelley Kessler, who's calling in from Philadelphia today, is going to tell us about Urban Thinkscape, which is the newest idea on ChangeX.
Hi all, and it's great to be here. 80% of the time that kids spend is out of school. And so what we know is that in that 80% of time, lots of things can or can't happen. And what we at Playful Learning Landscapes try and do is transform public spaces into joyful learning opportunities for kids and their families. We are based on the best science around how kids learn. And we know that kids do better when they have something that is playful, joyful, iterative, and that they learn best when there are adults who interact with them in some way. And so what we do is help communities decide for themselves what their learning goals are and create spaces that reflect the culture and the ideas of the community. But the play is imbued with playful learning experiences. So there might be a puzzle wall that helps kids learn about spatial, gives kids spatial experience. You could play something called fraction ball, which helps kids learn about math and STEM. Or you could do story time, where you essentially hop from one thing to another in terms of theme, and kids make up their own stories. So in this opportunity, what we're hoping is that people will apply and use this opportunity to build around bus stops, shopping malls, any place where people gather. You'll be given templates for what you can do on the ground, meaning easy ways to get kids playing with shapes and numbers and letters, and also the idea of the puzzle wall, which, you know, for many communities is a wonderful way to share their own culture and highlight what they think is important. So we're really excited to be part of this.
Thanks so much, Shelley. Sorry, we're getting very tight on time. So we were going to go through all the other ideas, but Katie has shared the fund page in the chat, and you can go there and kind of click through all the various ideas. There's more opportunities in the areas of digital skills with Hour of Code, and more environmental ideas like pollinator projects, community composting, and also community fridge, which I know Tessa is on with us, but we only have a couple of minutes left, so we might just go quickly to any questions or feedback that people have, and particularly those of you who are actually in Chicago. Are there any of these ideas that you think would resonate with the local community? Do you have any questions about how it works? Feel free to just unmute yourself and jump in. And if we don't have any questions, because we really only have a couple of minutes.
Neve,
I have a quick one.
Oh, go ahead, Gan.
Go on, Gan.
Please.
It's always pretty easy to see the upside of things. What's some of the hardest parts? What's some of the challenges that you guys faced in in executing these concepts?
Yeah, it's a great question. I wonder if putting that to either Pearl or Renata, who both went through the process and started projects last year.
Yeah,
what was the top challenge you faced?
I can talk a little bit. I think the top challenge was when some people say, oh, I am already doing that. I am already doing a pollinator garden. So like, wow, we need to do many pollinator gardens. You don't need to do one or two, and people feel like it's kind of a competition. No, I already have this project. So my idea was to break this ice and get several institutions who was working on pollinator gardens. They say, hey, we need to some effort on that idea. It's not like one pollinator garden who is going to save the world. So we need to get together on this. So I think that was the hardest part for me. Besides, finding money,
That's always the hard part.
Yeah.
Robert, did you want to jump in there? I'm just conscious that we're very tight on time.
Nope, I just wanted to reemphasize to everybody that the link that was shared is shareable to anybody beyond this call, right? So they can share it out to other networks and other folks right?
Yeah, please share it far and wide.
Do. And we'll be sharing, so Lawrence and Robert will share an email after this that has different, the link as well as kind of suggested social media posts and ways to share it. So I know that many of you are already involved in community projects, so please share it with anyone that you think might be interested. And as you were listening to some of the ideas there, hopefully people were popping into your mind that maybe might be excited about some of these ideas. So sorry it was all a little bit rushed in the end, but I will just wanted to say thanks so much to all of you for joining. Thanks to Renata and Pearl for sharing their stories. Thanks to all the great social innovators who joined us and to the Microsoft team. And I might just give the last word there to either Lawrence or Rob. If you guys just want to close it out with what you would like to see happen in Chicago over the next few months.
Lawrence,
sure, I'll start. Thanks again for everyone joining. We're excited to kick this off. We think there's a lot of great opportunities that can occur throughout Chicagoland. So we're excited to see who responds to this, and happy to answer any questions you might have about this program or anything else we're doing.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Rob?
Yeah, no, I echo that. Appreciate all the work on ChangeX team and your part for putting this together and having this ready today. So thank you very much. Again, of course, thank you to everybody that participated. And, I think we've got money there to put to good use. So let's make sure it doesn't sit idle if we can do good things. So look forward to seeing how this develops. Yeah.
Spread the word about it as far as possible. So thanks everyone, and have a lovely Friday. And I hope some of Rahul's sunshine that he has there in Seattle spreads to the rest of us over the weekend.
That's an idea where it's spreading right there.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Team.
Thanks, everyone.
Great.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Have
you.
a good day.
Bye.
Hi, room.
Thank you.